So the next thing I want to talk to you about is our 2020 campaign, and what we're looking to focus and center our 2020 campaign around is something called Battle Ready, and that's going to be delivered through a battle flag. All right, so we're going to walk the dog on what Battle Ready means, what the battle flag means, and how we're going to institutionalize this thing. But the first thing we got to talk about is the why. Why are we doing the Battle Ready campaign for 2020? Why are we instituting a battle flag program? And it all starts at the top. So the first slide I want you to look at is the desired culture. Okay, how many of you guys have y'all seen the culture of readiness model? Have you guys been exposed to that at all? If you haven't, that's fine, because we're going to continue to beat the drum on this, and we're going to get it down to the lowest level, because it's important that not only at the top, at the organizational level, that we're advocating and living this, but it's got to be explained, and it's got to be internalized and understood all the way down to the individual soldier level. So with the desired culture, you see the outer band. You got a key over to the right, so that number one there, the outer band, you see the words excellence, teamwork, accountability, and trust. So those are the foundational principles or standards that we want to have within our organization, that is the Arkansas Army National Guard. They're not values per se, because we already have values, the Army values, right? And we'll talk about those here in a second. But in the outer band, excellence, teamwork, accountability, and trust, foundational principles or standards for the organization. Excellence, pretty simple to understand. Excellence in everything we do, right? Hence, be your best. I know we're all tracking be your best. That's part of our 2019 campaign, and we're going to continue to espouse that theme, but excellence in everything we do. We have to be there as an organization. Teamwork. Being in the Army is a team sport. You don't get anywhere by yourself in the Army, all right? You don't accomplish any mission. You don't fulfill, many tasks collectively as an individual. It takes a team to accomplish a mission in the Army. Okay, so we are a team of teams made up of leaders and the led. The next thing is accountability, and when we talk about accountability, so important, so central to everything that we do as an organization. Now, when you hear the term accountability, you typically think of the subordinate being accountable to the superior, and that's true, and that is very, very important. Okay, that is an important form of accountability. But I believe the most powerful form and the most decisive form of accountability that we have in this organization is the leader being accountable to the led, or the superior being accountable to the subordinate, by their actions, by their words, by their deeds, whatever the case may be. All right? So accountability is reciprocal. Okay? It goes both ways. But we've got to be accountable to those that we lead, just as those that we lead have to be accountable to their superiors. Make sense? And then trust. And I'll say it all day long. I mean, without trust, the organization goes nowhere. Trust is the fuel that powers the engine of the Arkansas Army National Guard. All right? Our subordinates have got to trust their leaders. And our leaders, we as leaders, we've got to be able to trust subordinates. Again, it goes both ways, just as accountability goes. So does that make sense in the outer band there? Okay. So inside the reticle, or the optic, and that's designed on purpose, and we'll talk about that, you see Army values, the warrior ethos, the leadership requirements model, and mission command. So grounded with and enabled by Army doctrine and values. So excellence, teamwork, accountability, and trust, it's all grounded on those foundational things. The values of loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, personal courage. Right? So the next we have is a warrior ethos. I mean, those four key things in the warrior ethos. I mean, it's foundational, and it helps drive excellence, teamwork, accountability, and trust. Leadership requirements model of character, presence, intellect, leads, develops, achieves, and then mission command. All right, getting after the task at hand through disciplined initiative that is driven through mutual trust and shared understanding. Okay, we're tracking thus far? All right, and then the next thing is, how do we deliver excellence, teamwork, and accountability and trust that's grounded in the Army values in the warrior ethos and the leadership requirements model and mission command. So I submit to you, we deliver those things through our character, our attitude, our relationships, and our execution. And that's on, the acronym spells out CARE, and that's on purpose. All right, we're caretakers of the organization. We got to care about what we do. We got to care about the people within the organization. But we deliver excellence, teamwork, accountability, and trust through our character, high character, all right, doing the right thing all the time, even when nobody's looking, all right, moral, ethical, you know, being sound leaders of character, being soldiers that are absolutely driven and motivated by high character. And then attitude, mission first, soldiers always, can do, you know, our attitude is infectious as leaders, all right. A positive attitude, you know, will breed positivity or a positive attitude down there at the soldier level. Our relationships, that's tied back to teamwork, okay? So again, we all understand that being in the Army is a team sport. So we don't get anywhere by ourselves. So developing those relationships, you know, having good, solid relationships with our subordinates, our peers, and then our superiors. And then execution. And then execution that's the end item. You know, that's the end of the line. So as we go through the conveyor belt of excellence, teamwork, accountability, and trust, Army values, warrior ethos, leadership requirements model, mission command, character, attitude, relationships, the end of the line is our execution, because that's what it spits out. That's the product, right? And you know, we're either accomplishing the mission, accomplishing the task, the directive, whatever the case may be, or we're not. But you know, at the end of the day, it all comes down to our execution. So that's the desired culture for the organization, the culture of readiness for the Arkansas Army National Guard. So do we get that? I mean, pretty clear, right? So if you flip the page, the next thing I want you to look at is just a problem, and it's just a visual representation of the problem as a sergeant major and I see it. So we have this culture of readiness, you know, something that we're working towards, the culture that we're working to establish within our organization. The next arrow takes you down to your Be Your Best, Be a Soldier, you know, that Be Your Best campaign, the readiness campaign we have for 2019, trying to urge everybody in this organization, whether you're the youngest private or the most senior colonel or general officer, to do everything you can to be your best, deliver excellence in everything that you do, realize your full potential as a soldier in the Arkansas Army National Guard. Our readiness and priorities and objectives, we talked about those earlier, you know, our top 5 metrics, the vital signs of the organization, if you will, in terms of our assigned strength, our attrition, our medical readiness, our physical fitness, and then our deployability. So just as a patient is hooked up to monitors in a hospital room, talking about heart rate and all that other kind of stuff, I submit to you that the 5 things that we talk about, that we measure, that we're working towards, they're the vital signs of the organization, and they paint the picture and they tell the story of how healthy this organization is. So we have culture, we have a slogan or a campaign idea with Be Your Best, we have priorities and objectives that we're working towards as an organization, but how does all that translate down to the individual soldier in the formation, right? Then you see the red arrows there, linking accountability at the top, at the organization level, through the adjutant general, through our SEL and our Army sergeant major, command sergeant major, down to the individual level. That arrow goes both ways, all right? You got pointy ends on that line that says, hey, we got accountability going both ways here. But then how do we get that from the top all the way down? How do we make readiness real for the individual soldier? And when we talk readiness, you know, readiness for that individual soldier means that soldier is trained, that soldier is fit, that soldier is ready to deploy, fight, and win on the battlefield. That's what it means. Okay. And the last thing before I hand it over to the sergeant major is I just want to make one final statement. So we're going to roll out the battle flag. He's going to discuss the battle flag concept with you. But the situation is, in the first sentence on this slide, in the top left quadrant, the situation says, being physically fit and ready for deployment is a professional, moral, and ethical obligation for every soldier in the Arkansas Army National Guard. You guys agree with that? So as we talk professional obligation, what does that mean? So I submit to you that we have a professional obligation because, you know, as soon as we call ourselves soldier, as soon as you join a team, you have an obligation to your teammates to be ready, right? They need to be able to count on you on the battlefield, because ultimately that's what we're trained to do: deploy, go to the battlefield, and fight, win. So we have a professional obligation. We have a moral obligation. When I talk moral obligation, let's think back to our oath. Everybody in this room has raised their right hand and swore or affirmed to defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, right? We've all done that. So when we do that, we incur a moral obligation to deliver, to be ready to do that for the citizens of this state and for this nation against all enemies, foreign and domestic. So that's our moral obligation. And then lastly is our ethical obligation, okay? So what happens on the 1st and the 15th for every AGR? You get paid. What happens once a month for our M days, usually the 3rd week or so after the drill period, they get paid. So our major talked about the benefits that are available to our M-Day soldiers, to all of us in uniform: tax-free pay, the GI Bill, TRICARE Reserve Select, retention, incentives, everything else, all the bonuses out there. As soon as you accept money from the American taxpayer, the American Treasury, you've incurred an ethical obligation to do your part, to hold up your end of the bargain, right? So that's what I'm talking about with professional, moral, and ethical obligation. So that's going to tee it up for the CSM, and then he's going to talk about, you know, what that means as it relates to the battle flag.
All right, so back to the formation and the problem statement that the Chief of Staff talked to. You see the formation down there. They could be as small as a squad, as large as our, you know, having the whole state in formation. Bottom line is, right now, with our readiness campaign and everything else that we're doing, unfortunately, we don't know who in the formation a lot of times is battle ready and who isn't. We just don't know. We're chasing a percentage, right? We're chasing a number, but we're not really down to the name tape level, at the tactical level, at the company level, tracking the individual soldier that needs to do this or needs to improve that, or is totally ready to deploy until it's time to deploy. Well, basically, we come up with 5 things that we think we want to look at when we talk about being battle ready. And what we want to do is focus on, we talked about physical fitness, height and weight, right? Those are definitely going to be a problem with us for certain individuals in our formation, and have been for numbers of years in some cases. So passing the APFT is one of the reasons, or one of the things we want to look at when it comes to being battle ready. Be height weight compliant. Earn your MOS. And we're not talking about being duty MOSQ. The reason we didn't want to go duty MOSQ is, you all know, being in the Guard, the big Army will change the MTO, and we will find ourselves having to take a whole organization in some cases, and now they have to go get a different MOS, which is really not their fault, okay? So we're saying have an MOS, right? We're also saying, and you know how this goes with the PPOM now, we won't continue to add to this problem, but the bottom line is you got to be PME compliant. Whether you're an NCO or an officer, you need to be PME compliant for the rank that you currently have. And the last thing we're saying to you is no disciplinary flags, okay? Those 5 things, I think, every soldier in the Arkansas Army National Guard, every soldier that went through basic AIT understands that those are things I have to maintain to be a soldier who is prepared and ready to fight and win our nation's wars, correct? And everybody should already be that way, but we understand that because of the situation we find ourselves in as citizen soldiers, we do not have access to our soldiers 24/7, 365, and they only go on pass during the weekends if we give them one, and then we don't see them, but we get them back the next Monday. That's not the case for us. We see them 2 days a month and 15 days a year, and that makes our problem a little different. It's not really different. It's actually just unique, and we understand it's unique. But we think we got to do something to identify the soldiers that are battle ready, and then also identify those that aren't, so we can help them become battle ready. So what we're going to do is we're going to, at the tactical level, the company commander and first sergeant level, we're going to give those 5 criteria to a company commander and first sergeant and say, we want you in October 1st, after we roll this out in July, to go through your formation and then put this flag on each individual in your formation that has met those 5 things, met or exceeded those 5 things. Those soldiers that don't, they will now stand out, right? Okay? And we will now try to figure out what we need to do to help them get to where they need to be able to put this on. Okay? So that's a formal formation. It's the commander and first sergeant walking through and saying, hey, Zako, is that how I say your name, Sergeant Zako?
Okay.
Hey, bud, congratulations. We're going to slap that battle flag on you, and you're good to go. Right? All the way through the formation. And at the end of every formation, depending on which unit you're in, the Arkansas National Guard, some will be 8 of 10 maybe, some will be 5 of 10, somewhere in between. But we're going to have some work to do, correct? And the bottom line is we're going to know where that work's at. It's going to stick out like a sore thumb. We're going to see it. But this is not to belittle soldiers. This is not to degrade soldiers. This is to identify, hey, I have a 9-man squad, 6 of my soldiers are wearing the battle flag, 3 of them aren't, and I know exactly why those 3 aren't. I'll tell you right now, we have readiness NCOs, and most of our units are the only ones that really know what's going wrong. And we don't have, in some cases, M-Day soldiers that really know the nuts and bolts of what's wrong with soldier X, Y, and Z. This is the accountability that the Chief of Staff talked to. All right, the leader to the led and the led to the leader. This is the type of accountability, because at the end of the day, when I'm walking around with this, I'm not answering any questions on why I'm not battle ready, because it's obvious to everybody that I am. Okay? But if I'm a squad leader and I have half my squad that's not battle ready, that's also going to be on me, right? And the individual soldier to figure out how we're going to fix it. And to the entire organization. Because I want companies that are fully battle ready. That's where we want to be, right? We don't want to have a bunch of soldiers that aren't. Now, we're going to have situations where they got to go finish, what they need to do as an officer or an NCO to get their MOS. There are some certain things. For RSP, it's nice and clean because they come to us with an MOS and we do the battle handoff. Battle handoff should come with a 705 saying Soldier X passed the PT test. At the tactical level, commander validates that he or she's passed the PT test. They're battle flag ready. Now, just because you're battle flag ready, what do you need to do over the course of the life of your contract with us? You need to maintain those things. If one of those things comes off, we don't rip it off in front of the formation and do something that would belittle you. We got a 4856, we're knee to knee as a leader to a lead, and we're talking about what you need to do to put this flag back on and not belittle you for why you're taking it off. Does that make sense? It's all about trust, it's all about accountability, it's all about respect. It goes all the way back to page 1 of what the Chief of Staff talked to. It's all encompassing that, and now we are able to take those citizen soldiers that we come in and we're able to hold them accountable. And we think this flag right here, not being on their shoulder, well, maybe they'll change the other 28 days a month some of the things they do to help them get, if it's a PT problem or if it's a height, weight, diet, nutrition problem, or if it's a, hey, some of those lead to some of these other things not being able to be closed, right? Or, hey, I'm not going to smoke weed anymore, right? Because I know I'm going to get flagged for that, right? We don't need to have soldiers doing that kind of stuff if they're going to be in this uniform, right? Does that make sense? Now, 670-1. I don't know if you've read it recently, but it's going to say that this flag can be worn overseas and in the field. My opinion, every time you come to IDT weekend, you should be doing medal training, you should be going to a local training area, you should be going to the field. We will have a policy, however, to say that you can wear this flag in the state. If you're going to go over to PEC for a G4 meeting and the summit that all 54 states are coming to, you take this flag off, put the one that's on the uniform, put the one that's on the uniform back on, and nobody asks you any questions. You don't even need to worry about it. You're going to go to BLC at Camp Shelby, Mississippi, you put this other flag back on, you don't need to answer a bunch of Sergeant Major's questions. We don't want you doing all that stuff. It's for the purpose of being back here, accountability to our problem set, which is culture of readiness that we're trying to rectify with our citizen soldiers. Does that make sense? Any questions on this and what we're trying to do with this? Anybody have any issues with this? Any problems they see? Because we are definitely, we've talked to what, 15, 16 units now?
That's right.
And we've heard a lot of different things and we've answered a lot of questions. We've heard a lot of good positive feedback and we've heard some concerns. But we want to make sure that you guys understand what we're trying to do. And because at the end of the day, I talked about this earlier too. You look at Ingus as an example. I have a lot of people that when we go time to go collect money for Ingus, which we know is our professional organization, is enlisted soldiers, you'll have some E6s, E7s, even some first sergeants or sergeant majors saying that's not worth it, right? I'm not naive. If we have that same problem with this, that's going to be a problem. If me and Owens have a problem with this, and we want to talk about it face to face, no problem. But Owens doesn't need to be saying that in front of the soldiers. We need to stand behind this as it comes out, because it will be a program from the top down, and we need to stand behind it, and that's the only way it's going to be effective. If we're bad-mouthing it as leaders, our soldiers will hear that, and it will get the kibosh on it from their standpoint, because perception is reality with our soldiers. And if the perception is we don't care about it, neither will they. Make sense?
Okay.
So anybody have any questions or anything we should be thinking about as we roll this out? Because we're not rolling it out till July as far as as far as the IO campaign, and then October 1st, that'll give them time to prepare themselves. October 1st, that's when we roll this out. And what happens in October for our citizen soldiers and all of us? We do a physical fitness test. Good timing, right? Anything else?
Okay, to summarize, so just like Sergeant Major said, the success of this initiative is going to rest with our leaders at the smallest level of the organization, at the lowest level of the organization, at our teams, sections, and squads. All right, that's where we will achieve success. All right, we've got to lead our way through this. Okay, it's going to take maturity. It's going to take professionalism. It's going to take some empathy, and it's just going to take a personal investment from the leader to the led, from the leader to his or her soldiers, to invest themselves in saying, I want you to be battle ready. No matter where you are today as it relates to your fitness, to your PME, whatever the case may be. If they're working through a substance abuse problem and the soldier wants to rehabilitate and get right, well, the junior NCO, the junior officer, they need to invest themselves in that soldier to get them battle ready, okay? So I'm just asking you and I'm imploring you once we launch this thing, all right, to get behind it and to help us get this organization battle ready. I mean, if we can get 6,577 soldiers assigned to this organization and then work to getting all those folks battle ready, think about the impact that would have on the culture. I mean, think about the improvement that we can make as an organization if we get after accountability and make accountability real down to the lowest level. Okay, that's what we're trying to do. We've been talking a long time about this problem. And what we're trying to do is move from words to action, to actually do something. And the Sergeant Major said it best a couple weeks ago in a meeting. I mean, it's great to think outside the box, to talk outside the box, but now it's time to act outside the box and get after this problem that we view as systemic, and that's just the threat to our readiness of physical fitness, height and weight, substance abuse, or conduct that is contrary to the values of the organization. Those are our biggest threats to readiness that we have currently, okay? So I appreciate y'all taking the time to listen. You know, we've got an open email policy. All right, we're out there on the global. You guys have access to that. If you got some concerns or if you got some thoughts you might want to articulate offline, by all means shoot us an email. Okay, and let us know. And you might not want to talk about it here, but what I want to do is just model this physically. So I'm going to ask Sergeant Zako to come up. And I'm making the assumption that you're probably already battle ready, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, so if we flip the switch today, in formation, go ahead and do a left face. All right, and if I'm Sergeant Zako's leader, I'm going to have the privilege and the honor to recognize them in formation. And actually, we give this back to you, all right? And then we would affix the battle flag in front of his peers in the company. And then do a half left, all right, and then you see, right? So if Sergeant Zako is my team leader, all right, and I'm one of his subordinates, and he's wearing the battle flag, and I'm not, he should be motivated for me to be wearing the same flag as him, all right, because we're all in this together. goes back to that teamwork, okay? It goes back to relationships, and it just goes back to accountability and readiness. But you see the physical impact. You see what it looks like. Tracking? All right, gentlemen, that's all we got for you as it relates to the battle flag.
Number 4 here on achieve your professional military education. So you all know we struggle with what used to be SSD1, which is now DLC 1, 2, and 3, and so on and so forth. Our soldiers not even getting that part done to actually get an ATARS date for the next phase of the operation, right? So built into this thing, which is going to be pretty cool, is when they come within their window of a year out of going to that school, because we know DLC is now tied to BLC, it's all part of the academic process. If they don't get it within that year, they basically have not become battle ready. So we're going to hold them accountable for phase 1 of the operation with this same program. It's all, at the end of the day, you got to get to 1059, got it. But if you don't even do your part to get to a point where we can schedule a date for you to go get your 1059, you're not going to be battle ready. You see what I'm saying? So we're going to put the carrot and the stick everywhere we need to. And we know with DLC, getting these citizen soldiers, in some cases even our soldiers that are working here 24/7, 365, we have to put the things in place to mitigate ourselves from ever getting to a point where we're not where we want to be. And so that's going to be part of this as we roll this out. But as I said, all of that stuff's going to be managed at the tactical level. It is not going to be managed at the state level. It's going to be managed by that company commander, First Sergeant, his readiness NCO, and the leaders of that organization. Does that make sense?
And then just a very simple way ahead, July, what we're looking to do is every soldier in the formation is going to receive a very detailed trifold pamphlet or a brochure that will explain the program, explain why we're doing it, what are we doing, why are we doing it, and how do we get there as an organization. So every soldier is going to get one of those. We're going to have those reproduced and made. We'll have some social media touch points. This video, we're looking for it to be used out there via Facebook, whatever social media delivery mechanisms out there. You use it organizationally. We'll have some other videos made. We'll just have some posters made. And so those things go out in July. And then that gives leaders and soldiers time to wrap their head around it, talk about it, and then prepare for October. Because typically, you know, October, November, as late as December, we're doing APFTs. And you know, that's going to be the first real event for the battle flag is, you know, my vision and the vision of the Land Component Commander is come October, after the APFTs are in the books, that the first battle flags are awarded in formation. We're going to do a bulk buy. These are NSN items. They cost $1 a piece. All right, and then we'll distribute these flags down to the battalions, who will then distribute them down to company level supply sergeants, and the supply sergeants will have their arsenal of battle flags ready to hand out. And just like we talked about, company commanders, primarily first sergeants, and the NCO support channel, the NCO team is going to administer and execute this program. All right, and it's going to be down at the company level, and we believe it's going to make a difference. But it's going to be up to all of us, and up to you NCOs especially, you know, how much of a difference, it's going to be up to you in the end.
Nobody's got any concerns or questions or redirects or ideas that make it better? So you know, behind the scenes we did talk about stuff like MRC, but we just realized that that's really a lot. It's a lot to follow and chase. Sometimes it's not the soldier's fault. So we want to make sure that we kept it kind of in an area where initially this is the earn your battle flag criteria. As we get to these, meet all these gates, and improve on all these, you know, let's say we can't add stuff to it and make it a little harder. But right now, we think we need to stick with this and get us where we think we need to be, because I think this coupled with what we talked about earlier on PT, this is the perfect storm. We're talking about how we're going to get after our culture and clean it up and get it to where we think we can help our attrition through positive, reinforced leadership, empowered at the lowest level for our leaders to get after making ourselves strong from the bottom up and not the top down.
What do we think? Just off the cuff, just kind of what's your visceral reaction?
I think it's a good idea. I think that the peer pressure of the soldier standing next to me has got a battle flag and I don't. I think it'll motivate the soldiers to perform better.
think as Sergeant Major was saying, with change of culture, not just so much in the physical, APFT, it's really going to help our leadership. It's going to make the leaders want to have their troops and their soldiers underneath them to do better. So,
Cool.
and it's going to be a good culture change.
Cool. Now, give me some pitfalls though. Give me some,
Well,
give me
not
some
necessarily-
risk.
Not necessarily a pitfall, but not going on with what you guys are focusing on. It is going to create a top-down kind of look at it, because me as a platoon leader or whatever position I'm in, I'm going to want to have mine to appear or to magnify myself as an effective leader. So while that's not a pitfall, that is going to be a focus. Everyone in this room is going to be a leader. Everyone in this room is going to want a battle flag, because you can't effectively lead if you don't meet the standard.
Right.
So it does create a top-down effect, but it also, like I said before, it offers that peer pressure of, hey, the person standing next to me in formation has a battle flag and I don't. I need to step up what I'm doing to achieve that.
Cool. Now, where's some risk out there? I mean, let's think critically. Let's talk about risk with this program.
One of the first things I've seen when this first came out that kind of scared me a little bit is the fact that it could be considered hazing. Hey, this
Yep.
person doesn't have this, then people gang up on them. But if the culture change is real and the NCOs support it and create a backbone on it, then yeah, I can see how this is meant to push people up instead of taking them down.
All right, so let's talk about that. So Sergeant Zako brings up a great point. I mean, a risk that we have without question is this is used negatively in terms of, you know, what's wrong with you? You know, what's your problem? Someone being ostracized, somebody being set apart. How do we mitigate that?
It's equivalent to an APFT badge.
Very
So,
good.
an APFT badge you get if you score above a certain standard. You don't get it if you just meet the standard. Here we're just saying that, you know, we have met a certain standard that has been set.
Okay.
So, versus just being a soldier.
So I think, okay, so a way to maybe to mitigate that risk is use that as an equivalent and talk about that, articulate that. And you know, again, with this something we just got to lead our way out of, because I think we are going to have young soldiers that are going to bring that up, that are going to, for lack of a better term, complain about they feel that they are being picked on, that they're being set apart or ostracized because they don't have a battle flag. But I think you guys, the NCO, especially at the lowest level there, Sergeant Zako, we got to say this is why we're doing it, and we got to be able to explain, be able to counsel them, be able to teach and coach them in terms of understanding how they fit into the culture of readiness model, and how this is not about degrading their service, but it's trying to lay a foundation for them to build excellence upon. And you're not going to build excellence upon a failed APFT. You got to pass your APFT, right? Then that's the foundation for further excellence.
When do we fail the PT test? I mean, I know physically we fail it on the day that we execute a record APFT, right? But when do we really fail to meet the standard?
Throughout the year.
Throughout the year, right? I mean, it's something we didn't prepare for. Because in order to, you know, we talk about readiness all the time, and I believe readiness is the right word, but I think you need to be prepared to be successful. And so, to be ready, you got to prepare yourself, right? So, we got to understand that when we talk about soldiers that are facing a point where they don't have their flag, the good thing about the 4856 now is we look at all the things that the Chief of Staff has laid out here for you, and you get ready to sit down with that 40, depending on which one the issue is, but let's just say it's PT. I know I have on the back page of that 4856 is something called leader responsibilities. What am I going to do to help Sergeant Manus, as I'm Staff Sergeant Megaloff? What am I going to do to help Sergeant Manus get over this pitfall as a leader in the first quarter, right, in the first 90 days? These are the things I'm going to do as a leader to help make sure that you're going to meet the standard again, to put that battle flag back on, because you're the only guy in our squad, and we're all going to try to help you. All other than myself as a leader and the other 7 members of our team or squad are going to help Sergeant Manus get that battle flag back on so we can be 100%. Those are the type of things that are going to happen And we're not gonna even see that. But those are the type of things we want to happen in order to get the culture where it needs to be, Sergeant Zako, like you said. Because I don't want NCOs out there that are bad-mouthing this program. It will die on the vine. I have to have NCOs out there to see this as, hey, I gotta get my flag, but I also gotta make sure that after I get my flag, that all my soldiers get theirs. When I sit on boards, just so you know, when I see a leader of E6 and above, and they have a 300 PT test, cool, man, but check it out. What's the squad average? Because I don't care what you're getting. I want to know you're a leader now, right? A squad leader. That's your responsibility for those other 9 men and women, right? So what's the squad average for that PT? Not just you. As an E4, even a little bit as an E5, I'll let you get away with what you're doing. But once you get above that, I need to know what you're doing for the organization. As an E7 platoon sergeant, what's your platoon average? As a first sergeant, what's the average, right? What's the readiness rate for your company, first sergeant? Because that's yours, right? It's your responsibility along with that commander. So that's what he talks about maturity. We gotta mature and understand what comes with the responsibility of being promoted from E5 to E6 or E6 to E7 or E7 to E8 or E8 to E9. Because I know right now sitting here that we can talk about this till we're blue in the face. And we can be as motivated as we want to, and we can both score 300s and all that great stuff. But at the end of the day, we're not gonna change the culture. It's gonna be Sergeant Zakos and Staff Sergeant News and Sergeant First Class Manus's and Master Sergeant Pitts. They're the ones that are really gonna make this happen. Make sense?
You don't think it's gonna wanna drive people out? Though we already talked about attrition, so they're not already performing at the minimum standards. Now they have to wear the flag on top of that. I don't think that'll make them more.
Yeah, so that's a great comment, and so I think we identify that as another risk.
There's gonna be a lot, because I've heard like we're in the upper 60s just for PT passes, so we're looking at more than 30% just for PT alone wearing that flag within our ranks.
So to your point, those that are like way off, you know, like there's no hope, like they're supposed to be running an 18-minute 2-mile and they're running 25 minutes because we just kept kicking the can down the road. The 2-time PT failure, commander has the paperwork to do that, has nothing to do with this, right? So those folks are going to get either right or they're going to get 2-time PT failure, and we're going to take care of them that way, right? The folks that are close, I mean, that's where leadership comes in, and that's where counseling comes in, and that's where acting outside the box comes in. Are we going to save them all? The ones we're going to save, Peck, are the ones that are going to meet us halfway. The ones that won't meet us halfway, we can't save them. I mean, because there's 28 days a month that we don't have access to these soldiers. If they're not going to, all I ask my soldiers in my initial counseling, meet me halfway. I'll do whatever I can for you. But and here's the thing, we have done ourselves a disservice because we've waited till October to find out where we're at every year. If we would just take something as simple as every quarter finding out where these kids are that haven't met us halfway and finding out early enough they're not going to meet us halfway, and maybe we can save them, that would mitigate this population from growing. It would shrink that population. And the more E5s and above we can get that aren't having this problem, that's where we'll be successful. I get it, I'm going to have young soldiers that have this problem. Our problem right now, why we're having to do all this, is not because of the E4s and below. It's because of all those people that are in our formation right now that are E5 and above that aren't passing. If we didn't have an E5 and above problem, we wouldn't be sitting here today talking about this.
So that's another issue I have. So you have somebody like Sergeant Zake that does an excellent job, has a flag, he has an E6 above him, still wearing this
Right.
flag. And then that guy, how long is he gonna wear that? He's sitting there waiting for him to get out of the way, and he can't even,
Well, what's it
perform.
saying? It goes back to the 2-time failure, okay? It also goes back to, okay, how long are we gonna leave him there where he's not able to get promoted, he's not doing what he needs to do to promote himself, so we got inefficiency now. So, bottom line is, we just gotta stop kicking cans down the road and start doing something. And I'll leave you with this too, think about this for a second. And the chief brought this up. If we took all this off this whole discussion today, all right, and we didn't talk about anything about this, and we just talked about the numbers that we always talk about, when do you think we're going to get the culture right if we do nothing? Someone give me a date.
Yeah, it's not gonna happen.
Okay. Will this make it any worse? I don't think so. I think this is actually going to make it better.
That's like you mentioned earlier, the readiness NCO is the only one that usually knows everyone's issues. So it's gonna be broadcasted now.
Well, and if you're a leader, you need to be able to answer. I mean, as a sergeant major, you think I'm going to the individual Zako and saying, what's wrong? You know where I'm going. I'm going to the platoon sergeant of the squad and saying, why do you have 15 people that don't have their flag? He better be able to better be able to tell me. Otherwise, he's not doing what I'm paying him to do, which is take care of his soldiers.
Yeah, great points, though, Sergeant Peck. Just in terms of risk, I think you've identified some great risk, and just like the Sergeant Major said, and just like I've said before, those are things that we've got to accept, that with anything you do, whether it be tactical or administrative, this being kind of an administrative kind of deal, there's going to be some level of risk, but it's going to be incumbent upon us as leaders, and especially NCO leaders, to mitigate that risk. And then there's going to have to be acceptable risk. And we're just going to have to accept, you know, if this drives, and again, this might create some attrition, but it might create attrition that frees up leadership positions for others that are battle ready to assume. And if that's the case, that means we're building a more capable force, and in the end, a more lethal force, a more ready force. And as Sergeant Major said, a more prepared force to go out there and do our mission sets. So I appreciate that candid feedback. That was good. Very good.
What do you think, Owens?
I'm on board, Sergeant Major. I like the program. You know, I think that the Army used to have a really competitive culture where everybody always wanted to be on top. This is going to be one more step to get us back there.
I can think of some other things, you know, we don't get if we don't pass. I mean, EFMB for our medics, EIB for our infantrymen. We got a new badge coming out for everybody that's going to be competitive that not everybody's going to get. And you know, Ranger tabs, Pathfinder badges, you know, 1059s at school, not everybody gets one. And they're going to be competitive to where they're going to start racking and stacking. If you're a class of 15, you're going to be 1 of 15, or you're going to be 15 of 15. And that's all going to be right there in the 1059 when you look at promotion boards and whatnot. So a lot of states that I know, a lot of my peers, they put all their stuff out there on blast on applications now for everybody to see where people aren't doing things, and it's all red here or red there because they're not doing it. And I mean, it's accountability. It comes back to accountability, and we understand that we have a different problem set. We're unique. We're not different, but we're unique when you compare us to our active duty counterparts that have access to their soldiers 24/7. And we need to do some unique things, in my opinion, in order for us to maintain the momentum of where we want to be when it comes to readiness. Because the Army doesn't care. The taxpayer does not care. They want a formation that can fight, destroy, and win. And we have to do that.
Absolutely.
Nobody's saying, oh, well, that's a guard unit, they can't. No, we have to. Just like our citizens in these communities that we just had out here, what did we do? We did what we needed to do for our citizens in our communities when it came to this flood. Our soldiers showed up and did what they had to do.